All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 4 of the 13-week fiscal program of recovery for American prisoners of war. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator and Chief Quietwater. And here we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Before we get started with today's readings, we're going to continue to play this Lyndon B. Johnson clip of the 1968 Civil Rights Act signing, which again, as we continue to reiterate, he'll mention the Negro, colored, Black, but as far as what we've read thus far within this document and any other Civil Rights Act document, we have not seen the words Negro, colored, or Black. So again, this is just another example, and we're going to continue to show this example of how they'll say certain things in the media and use as propaganda to get our people to continue to have faith within the system without actually recognizing us within the system. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play that clipping and we'll get straight into it.
Even while President Johnson talked to Chancellor Klaus about America's responsibility in a time of crisis and challenge, word came from Capitol Hill that Congress had passed and sent to the White House the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Included in the measure was a landmark housing bill, which, when fully effective, would forbid discrimination in approximately 80% of all housing offered for rent or for sale in the United States.
I do not exaggerate when I say that the proudest moments of my presidency have been times such as this, when I have signed into law the promises of a century. I shall never forget that it is more than 100 years ago when Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. But it was a proclamation. It was not a fact. And in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we affirmed through law that men equal under God are also equal when they seek a job, when they go to get a meal in a restaurant, or when they seek lodging for the night in any state in the Union. And now the Negro families no longer suffer the humiliation of being turned away because of their race. In the Civil Rights Act of 1965, we affirmed through law for every citizen in this land the most basic right of democracy, the right of a citizen to vote in an election in his country. In the 5 states where the act had its greater impact, Negro voter registration has already more than doubled. Now with this bill, the voice of justice speaks again. It proclaims that fair housing for all human beings who live in this country is now a part of the American way of life. We all know that the roots of injustice run deep. But violence cannot redress a solitary wrong or remedy a single unfairness. And we just must put our shoulders together and put a stop to both. The time is here. Action must be now.
All right. So again, going to continue to play that video each week until we finish this document, because again, it just highlights the hypocrisy pretty much that they're showing within television to the world, but the documents say a completely different thing. I think we're going to drop a question within the chat for, everybody within the chat. Salute to everybody to kind of engage in as we continue to read through these documents, just to see again, has this government ever written any protective laws for our particular group? We talking about for, again, he just mentioned Negro, Black, colored, or African American. I think we all know the answer to that, but again, we'll see different educators or different quote unquote leaders will say, we got these protections through this Civil Rights Act, or if they want to go back even further, they'll say we got these protections through the 13th through 15th Amendment, which is obviously a lie if they're making a whole Civil Rights Act 100 years later. So again, just going to continue to pose these questions, continue to play this video until it actually clicks for everybody. And also just to continue to show how they'll lie pretty much regarding anything when it comes to our group, as long as they do not recognize us within this government, within this system. And before we get started, that's going to lead us into, again, our readings. So for this week, we will have, I believe, Chief Quietwater, you're doing the inventor for this week.
Yeah, I have the inventor.
Gotcha. I'll let you take off then.
Actually very short this week because I couldn't find anything on this American inventor, but his name is Alfred Benjamin. And he actually invented the stainless steel scouring pad, like the SOS pad that you can scrub things with, like your pots and pans and things like that. The patent date is June 19th, 1962. The patent number is 3039125. And basically, like I said, it's the scouring pad. It's a 2-ply pad made of interwoven or intermeshed stainless steel. One side is a ply of pad that has one grade of coarseness, and the other side has another grade of coarseness, depending on what you're using it for. So again, just a little small thing, something that I'm sure that we have all used at one point or another in our life for everyday living, cleaning, another American inventor. And I'm sure that his family probably don't receive any benefits from the residuals of that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Shit, I got that sitting right behind my faucet now. So
right.
Like I said, one of our people created that. No, that's a good one. Definitely a good one for this week. Next, we'll have Chief Alligator with this week's Dr. Woodson quote. What quote did you want to read this week there, Chief?
Can you share your screen?
Yeah. Should be okay.
Oh, I was on mute. Can you scroll up toward the top? Number 3. All right, this week's Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote. We do a quote each week. He is the founder of what we know now as Black History Month. And we understand what that word Black means. We understand that it's never been written in United States government's history law. I do want to make a proclamation before I read this quote. I do not like videos and microphones. I'm doing this shit to help the people. I had to get that out there. I do not like this shit. Let's go. All right, quote 3 today. It was well understood that if by teaching of history, the European man could be further assured of his superiority, and the Negro could be made to feel that he had always been a failure and that the subjection of his will to some other race is necessary. The freedman then would still be a slave. If you could control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you don't have to concern yourself what he will do. And I chose that quote today for the latter part of this quote. We wouldn't be doing this on Sundays if our thinking was controlled. If we believed in white supremacy and, everything that the United States government's media and newspaper propaganda arm promotes to us, we would not be doing this. But because we chose to be self-educated and learn on our own, it allows us to give this information freely to those who are willing to receive it. Water is going to seep to its own level, but that stuck out to me today because we're doing this voluntarily and we're just laying breadcrumbs, making it harder for those that are lying to us, whether they look like us or not, to continue with the lie. I'll stop right there.
Definitely good quote for this week. Definitely good quote. I'll continue with the legal definitions and maroon historical points. Definition number 1, American, indigenous to America. Definition number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Definition number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And number 7, recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, the action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost. Jump down to the maroon historical points. Number 1, was a person escaping slavery seeking freedom or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, Maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, Maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. And those are the maroon historical points. Before we jump back into the Civil Rights Act, definitely wanted to play a clipping as well. I believe this was, let me see, says 3 years ago, so possibly almost 4 years ago, in regards to just reparations. We know this is a big key talking point, especially when it comes to those propped up leaders of our group that like to speak for us. But definitely wanted to highlight this and kind of just compare and contrast it with what we're reading in the document. We're reading that nations deal with nations, governments deal with governments, and that is particularly true when we're reading this Civil Rights Act of 1968, because we're seeing that you have the United States government, although the parent company per se of these Indian nations within Oklahoma, but they're still communicating amongst each other, saying, hey, okay, this is what we'll be in control of, and this is what you all will be in control of. We will allocate these funds to you all and vice versa. So when we're looking at this this clipping that I'm about to play, you'll see some things that he'll say in regards to not being able to pay a certain group, a certain race. But we're seeing clearly within this 1968 document that these quote unquote 5 civilized tribes who are acting as the real true Americans are getting allocated funds, resources, etc. So again, just going to play this here. I believe it's maybe a minute long, and that's about it. And then we'll go from there. We'll kind of build off of that.
Any monetary reparations that might be recommended by the commission created by HR 40 would almost certainly be unconstitutional on their face. The reason for that, listen, wait a minute. The reason for that is a legal question. See, the legal question is the federal government can't constitutionally provide compensation today to a specific racial group because other members of that group, maybe several generations ago, were discriminated against and treated inhumanely. According to the US Supreme Court, they would refer to that as an unconstitutional racial preference. See, the holding of the 1995 case, Richmond v. G.A. Cross and Company, is that racial set-asides and other entitlements are only constitutionally permissible to remedy the present effects of the government's own widespread and recent discrimination. And the federal government is not allowed to provide race-based remedies that are, quote, ageless in their reach into the past and timeless in their ability to affect the future, unquote. Now, listen, I get it. I've read the scholarship. I know that some proponents of this legislation believe that the very discussion of reparations itself would be cathartic for our nation. But we have to ask if discussions can result in justice today. They certainly probably won't provide consensus. Instead, many people of good conscience believe they'll distract from the many persistent causes of current racial disparities. They certainly exist. The despicable racism of America's past is part of that, as Mr. Coates, for example, is documented in a very compelling way, but so are other social and cultural dynamics, which are themselves often negatively influenced by well-intended government policies.
So I'll just pause right there. And as you all just heard, I believe as soon as I click play, basically saying how monetary compensation could not be given to a particular race. As we're seeing now, they're able to give monetary compensation to particular nations within these 5 civilized tribes or within this Indian territory known as Oklahoma today. Also, even when we're talking about protection status, we're talking about protection status for the gay community, the different groups we've seen. I believe in 2021 that they passed the Asian hate bill. So they're able to give protection, resources, any additional funds that you may say to these particular groups. But when it comes to our group, because we're classified underneath a race, they're saying legally that they cannot provide these resources or compensation. So I'll pretty much stop there and let you all kind of build on that, what you all kind of took away from that, and then we'll jump into this document.
For me, it just proves just another slap in the face that we're waiting for something to happen that will never happen. Waiting for them to give us something that they never plan on. You know, they're having these BS meetings to speak about it, but nothing is ever going to be done. And for us to sit around and think that it is going to happen is just beyond me, because we just have to understand that, like you said, it's nothing that's going to be given to a race that was never included in any of the documentation, any of the laws or anything like that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. That's why we always use the statement, show me a group of people that don't know the history, and I'll show you a group of people with fucked up politics. This goes all the way back to the unlawful Seminole Wars, which is my background for today's video, and also the Indian Removal Act. Okay, the United States government started waging unlawful wars basically 10 years after they established the last colony, which is known as Georgia. We have to understand this as a group of people. So when they moved a small percentage of people into Oklahoma, what was then Indian Territory, that began our denationalization. Everybody in the Southeast region of North America, we were denationalized. And so now here we are in 1968 reading the Indian Civil Rights Act. And what we're showing you based on governmental records is they never wrote Negro, Black, and Colored or Afro-American in law through Congress. And then in 2019, when they had the reparations hearing, you just heard that representative say, we can't give it to a race. So then that goes back to the steps that that we would read early on when we started this channel. The only way out is to let this shit fall. We come from confederacies. You're not going to change a foreign government operating on your land from within. You don't have any lawful standing. That's what we're showing you right now. Even though the Black Panthers are still incarcerated today, Malcolm X is dead, Martin Luther King is dead, You were never written in law during the 1960s. You were never written in law during the unlawful Seminole Wars or the fake Civil War. So you have to boycott the whole government, let it fall. The rest of the world is already on track with it. So can you pull up the Constitution real quick, just to drill down? And then we'll get into the reading. Can you go to the powers of Congress? And can you drop this link, Chief Quietwater, in the chat, just for those that may be listening, maybe new to the channel, don't have a copy of the Constitution? Okay, so Section 8 of the Constitution. What article is this, Chief Biko, just for people that's watching?
So this would be Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution.
Okay, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, impost, and excise, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States, foreign government. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Now, can we go down to where it says declare war as one of the powers that Congress has? All right, so Chief Biko just highlighted one of the powers that Congress has: to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. There is no document that there was a civil war coming through Congress. There is no document for the Seminole Wars, which never ended. Can you pull up the HR 40 bill real quick? Because we have to know our history and then we'll understand the politics. Why is the HR 40 bill over 30 years sitting in the House? Why has it never been passed by Congress? It's never going to be passed because you were never written in law through Congress. We have to understand the theory of operation in order to solve our problem. The Constitution is the operating manual. All right, HR 40's commission. How do we go back to the history when it was first introduced? I believe Connor, I think his name was Connor, that initially introduced it.
My bad, was on mute, but that's correct. So it was a representative in 1989. Let me see if I can get the
Pull it
history.
up. Yep, just pull it up real quick. And so what we're saying is we got to start, if we don't understand how something works, then how can you fix it? Right? So if the Constitution is the operating manual and everything has to come through Congress, any laws have to come through Congress. What we're saying is there's no document that ever came through Congress and went to the president saying Negro, Black, or colored, or Afro-American. So doesn't it make sense that HR 40 has been in limbo for 30 years? It's not racism. It would be a contradiction of its own self. The government can't vote to study something that it never wrote in law. I can't make it no simpler than that. Is there a way that you can pull that up just so you can share your screen and let people see history on HR 40? Because we would stop being emotional. You know, we have to stop being emotional and handle our affairs like adults. You know, everything right now is just based off emotionalism, you know, since 2019 and this HR 40 bill. Where's the year?
Let me do a quick find. This one said they had the year. All right, so we go.
Okay, so 1989, Congressman John Conyers introduced HR 40. So now we're in 2023. The reason why it's been over 30 something years is because we're showing you that Congress never wrote our group into law. Because we are the Cherokee, we are the Chickasaw, we are the Choctaw, we are the Seminole, we are the Creek. You got to take this shit all the way back to the Indian Removal Act and the unlawful Seminole Wars. They propped up foreigners, gave them our birthright, and started reclassifying everybody that didn't go west of the Mississippi River. That's the point. That's the Exodus. That's our story on this land. And here we are today with quasi-citizenship. I was sharing with Chief Biko yesterday. We're temp workers. Think of the United States government like a job. We are the temporary workers. All we get is a check. We don't get any benefits, dental, vision, or health. We don't have a union to protect us if we get fired. Okay. Now, when you compare that to the gay community and you compare that to the Asian community and look at all these other groups of people that are being protected by this federal government, why is it that you can't get specifically protected? You're the temporary workers. And you got more seniority on the job than everybody else at that company. And we still haven't figured out that we're contractors, we're temporary workers. You don't get full benefits. And we keep calling it racism. It's not racism. They never wrote you in law.
That's a good point you just made there too. We've been the longest tenured temp worker underneath this system, but yet don't have any benefits. We showed the Congressional Black Caucus, the longest standing caucus underneath this government, 1971, but have done nothing in regards to providing, again, any protection, any resources, in particular for our group. But we'll see the Asian and Pacific Islanders, the Hispanic Caucus, etc., have all of these resources, these different things. And even if we look here in this last sentence, what was here? Findings led to President Ronald Reagan to sign a law that offered an apology to Japanese Americans and reparations for 20,000 for internment survivors. So again, just more documents, more proof of pretty much our status on our land underneath this government. And again, as he stated, just it all makes sense how they pretty much wrote everything to make sure that we were never included, that we are always excluded, and we can never get what we are truly owed. So as he stated, as Chief Alligator stated earlier, we just have to let this shit crumble. Again, the rest of the world is already doing so by pretty much taking all of their money and putting it into their own currencies. So why do we as Americans, not anybody on this chat or anything like that, but as a collective,
Right.
we are a minority amongst our group per se. We are pretty much the only ones thinking like this. When I say we, the ones on this chat, the ones speaking the indigenous facts, bringing up the indigenous documents. So why is it that the majority of our people are not understanding this? Why do they have faith still within this system when the whole world doesn't? And I'll let you kind of build on that, Chief Quietwater.
I definitely agree with both of you. I know somebody in the chat asked, Lamont Williams asks, he said that I am absolutely heartbroken. It doesn't sadden me, but I would like to know what is the solution. And I think it goes back to what Chief Alligator said in regards to us. First, we have to know the information. I think it's just so much of us that are just ignorant to the fact that, we don't know this information across the board, that we were never included. We think the Civil Rights Act was for us until now we're reading that it was really for, it was really for us, but, under the guise of, we never knew that it was the Indians that they were talking about until now. And I think that it just comes from lack of information. And I definitely think that once more people know this information and spread the information, that we could be all on one page to try to move our group forward. Because if we don't know, then we don't know how to fix it. So we have to know how to fix it and where we're coming from, what we, all of the things that were done against us in order for us to know how to fix it moving forward.
And I'll kind of piggyback on that. It won't take too long. Just for Lamont's question, do exactly like she stated. We gotta let this thing fall. We have to first, understand who we are, where we come from, and all we can do is provide the information. We can't save everybody here. It's a lot of niggas out here, and I say that term because it means you're ignorant. You're not knowing what the hell's going on. You don't know who you are. You don't know your history. We can't save everybody. So at this point, all we can do is exactly what we've been doing every Sunday, exactly what a lot of people have been doing every Sunday. You speaking with your family, saying, hey, this is what's going on. You provide the information, whether they believe it or choose to do anything with it is on them. But we provided the information, we provided the documents for you to research this stuff on your own. If that's not what you want to do and you want to continue to have faith within this system, hey, Lamont, it's going to be a lot of, family members that's just going to get, pulled down with everything. But we have to make sure that we're, doing what we're supposed to do in regards to making sure that we can provide a solution, which is just letting this shit crumble. Before we jump in, I'll just jump here to section 10, where it says what money is.
Yeah, if I can answer Mark right quick as well, Chief V. Man, keeping it short, what we're showing the world and more particularly our people is we do this every Sunday, and we're coming up on 104 weeks or 2 years in July. And so we've never set goals as a group of people and got something done. So when we say boycott, no one is half the battle. Now that we're reading the documents, shout out to all the leaders that are even following along with us, because it first starts mentally. Have to understand mentally what's going on. Then once you understand mentally what's going on, now we got to set a goal. And the goal would be a 13-week boycott. That's one fiscal quarter. That's 90 days. And so we've never set a goal since our grandparents. Our grandparents set a goal that they thought that was going to allow them to be included under this foreign government, which was the boycott in Montgomery with the buses. They walked for over a year. We haven't done anything as a group of people since then. And so we're out of line with natural law. And you cannot succeed in life on an individual or group level without setting goals and without being able to go through whatever has to be done to attain the goal. That's our problem. And we're showing how powerful we are by giving you a different inventor every week. So what we're saying is, once it really clicks that we are the gods in America, if we sat down for 13 weeks, the longer we sit down, the more we're going to realize our power, because everybody eats off us. The key is, can we sit down to come up? Ain't no other way to do it. Everybody don't watch enough drug dealing movies or listen to people who are, you have to sit down in order to come up. Based on our behavior when it comes with money or energy or currency, we are the top spenders in under this government. That's poor behavior. We spend what we don't have. And then we wonder why we're not wealthy, or we don't think like people of wealth, because we're poor as a group of people. We got to come up. We got to sit down, get our shit together. So when we say boycott, that's what we're saying. We have to become more disciplined, because quarter after quarter go by and election after election go by, and we never get anything done because we are a goalless group of people. People can get in front of us with frothy emotional appeal, and we go for it. What was the last thing we put on this channel when the last voting cycle came around? What was it? No voting, no fucking.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they can come at us like that, because we're undisciplined as a group of people. We don't know how to say, you know what? Ain't nothing moving until I get this done. That's where we should be about our issue with this government. This ain't got nothing to do with no other group of people. This got to do with us and what this government has done to us. I'll stop right there. But Lamont, that's where we coming from on it. We got to sit down and come up.
Facts. Great point. And with that, we'll jump straight into where we left off last week, which was the page 16 retro session. So I'll pick up here, and then
I can start.
You'll start us off.
I'll start you. Where are we at?
Right, your retro session.
Okay. Retrocession of jurisdiction by state. Section 403, the United States is authorized to accept a retrocession by any state of or any measure of the criminal or civil jurisdiction or both acquired by such state pursuant to the provisions of Section 1162 of Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 1360 of Title 28 of the United States Code, or Section 7 of the Act of August 15th, 1953, 67 statutory 588, as it was in effect prior to its repeal by subsection B of this section. B, repeals Section 7 of the Act of August 15th, 1953, 67 statutory 588, but leaves a partial savings clause as follows. But such repeal shall not affect any cession of jurisdiction made pursuant to such section prior to its appeal. Okay. Not sure what all that means. I guess it's, can you scroll up one more time? So that was the retrocession of jurisdiction by state. Okay. All right. So I guess that's statutory that they're talking about.
Yeah.
You can go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah. Consent to amend state laws, Section 404, notwithstanding the provisions of any enabling act for the admission of a state, the consent of the United States is hereby given to the people of any state to amend, where necessary, their state constitution or existing statutes, as the case may be, to remove any legal impediment to the assumption of civil or criminal jurisdiction in accordance with the provision of this title. The provisions of this title shall not become effective with respect to such assumption of jurisdiction by any such state until the people thereof have appropriately amended their state constitution or statutes, as the case may be. So basically, they're saying that states can amend in their existing statutes and constitutions, basically. You're on mute.
So it looks like they would have to have the consent of the United States before doing so, of any particular statute that they're looking to amend.
Right, they're all going to form like Voltron, get in order with what they're saying as far as these domestic violence laws and everything within these Indian tribes. Basically, what they're getting ready to do is all these states that are coming up under the parent company, United States government, they're all going to be in a, when it comes to dealing with these quasi nations, because they're really not sovereign nations. And we can see that up until this point because they're adherent to everything that the United States government is making them adhere to. They got to adhere to Title 18.
Gotcha. Okay.
Granted resources. So he who pays is the tune you got to dance to.
All right. Actions not to abate, Section 405A, no action or proceeding pending before any court or agency of the United States immediately prior to any session of jurisdiction by the United States pursuant to this title shall abate by any reason of that session. For the purposes of any such action or proceeding, such session shall take effect on the day following the date of final determination of such action or proceeding. B, no session made by the United States under this title shall deprive any court of the United States of jurisdiction to hear, determine, render judgment, or impose sentence in any criminal action instituted against any person for any offense committed before the effective date of such session. If the offense charged in such action was cognizable under any law of the United States at the time of commission of such offense, for the purpose of any such criminal action, such session shall take effect on the day following the date of final determination of such action. So is this saying that the United, were you saying something?
No, this is hammering home exactly what I just stated.
Right.
They're just basically saying the United States government is going to supersede whatever is in this act. Our court still got jurisdiction over everything that's going on.
So they really don't have any say so. Everything is pretty much governed still by the government. Okay. Special election, Section 406, state jurisdiction acquired pursuant to this title with respect to criminal offenses or civil causes of action or with respect to both shall be applicable in Indian country only when the enrolled Indians within the affected area of such Indian country accept such jurisdiction by a majority vote of the adult Indians voting at a special election held for that purpose. The Secretary of the Interior shall call such special election under such rules and regulations as he may be prescribed when requested to do so by the tribal council or other governing body or by 20% of such enrolled adults. So that's kind of giving them some kind of say so in regards to what they can do by, I guess, special election. They're allowing enrolled Indians to be able to make some type of determination.
Right. But the catch on that, if y'all remember, we did the 1866 Indian Treaty. The Secretary of the Interior, those are federal employees. So, so you got United States government federal employees sitting in the Bureau of Indian Affairs and sitting as Secretary of Interior. So again, you've been infiltrated. It's like we are now with this last voting election, when the Anti-Defamation League came out publicly and said militia is running to be public servants. You see what I'm saying? And so you voted militia in. Now the recorded video that came out, just to tie that in with this week, about that sheriff in Oklahoma admitting to lynching and killing Negroes. Here we go again, because we're ignorant to what's going on. We're calling it racism. When really what the sheriff was saying was, I want the days of the posse comitatus to come back. You know, I want to be able to do what my granddad told me, how we can just take one of them down to the town square and lynch them. And, you know, so we keep trying to operate under a foreign government that is military occupying us. And it's the 5 nations. They were militarily moved into Oklahoma. Before they were on reservations, they were sent to forts.
Right.
You know, we've shown that on the Indian removal map. So all of these fake civilized tribes, they're next to military bases. So they're under the gun, whether they realize it or not, just like we're under the gun, whether we realize it or not. If we don't think we're under the gun, stand up and go. If enough of us get out in the streets and protest, then you see, all kind of military tactics come out.
Right. Right. Okay. So Title V, Offenses within Indian Country Amendment, Section 501, amend Section 1153 of Title 18 of the United States Code. Title VI, Employment of Legal Counsel, Approval, Section 601, notwithstanding any other provision of law and any application made by any Indian tribe, Indian council, or any band or group of Indians under any law requiring the approval of the Secretary of Interior or the Commissioner of Indian Affairs of contracts or agreements relating to the employment of legal counsel, including the choice of counsel and the fixing of fees by any such Indian tribe, council, band, or group is neither granted nor denied within 90 days following the making of such application. Such approval shall be deemed to have been granted. So this is basically legal counsel. They basically are dictating who they can and can't employ as legal counsel.
As it's coming off, basically they're giving them, or they'll have to go through that Secretary of Interior, still have to go through the United States government as far as who they want to employ for said legal counsel. And if they don't hear back within that 90 days, as far as a denial, then that pretty much means they're clear, they're good to go. So again, just kind of going back to the same points, that still have to make sure that they're going through the parent company, which is the state government.
So they're really not calling any shots of their own, pretty much.
They writing up everything what they can and can't do.
Okay, so Title VII, materials relating to constitutional rights of Indians, Secretary of Interior to prepare Section 701A in order that the constitutional rights of Indians might be fully protected. The Secretary of Interior is authorized and directed to 1, have the document entitled Indian Affairs, Laws, and Treaties, Senate document number 319, volumes 1 and 2, 58 Congress, let's see, revised and extended to all treaties, laws, executive orders, and regulations relating to Indian affairs in force on September 1967, and to have such revised document printed at the government printing office. 2, have revised and republished the treaties entitled Federal Indian Law. 3, have prepared to the extent determined by the Secretary of the Interior to be feasible and accurate compilation of the official opinions, published and unpublished, of the Solicitor of the Department of the Interior relating to Indian affairs rendered by the Solicitor prior to September 1st, 1967, and to have such compilation printed as a government publication at the government printing office.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. You're reading a lot. Let's go back to that top one. Okay. Section 701. In order that the constitutional rights of Indians might be fully protected. Now let's drop down to the first point you said. Have the document entitled Indian Affairs, Laws and Treaties, Senate document number 319, volumes 1 and 2, 58 Congress, revised and extended to include all treaties, laws, executive orders, and regulations relating to Indian affairs. The United States government is saying, get all this documentation in order so you can give it to these nations. Because all of this pertains to them.
Right.
We've never gotten that.
Right. And it's very specific, Indian affairs, laws, and treaties. And like you said, fully, where did it say that at? Fully protected. Yeah, right. Yeah, we've never gotten anything in writing.
We don't, when we hear treaties, we're thinking Moorish people. And
right.
Again, I'm not throwing Moors under the bus, but what I'm saying is, here's a prime example that this group of people are educated or they have the documents to be educated about what happened on the land. The Negro has never had this.
Right.
The United States government has never said, hey, we're going to make sure all the documents pertaining to you, now that you're fully protected, we're going to give this to this entity. You see? So
that there's a reference point or somewhere where you can actually go to get this information.
Right. That's
a centralized place, government printing office.
Right. And then they're going to print it out and make sure everybody can get it who wants it.
Right.
We got to piece the shit together by ourselves. That's the whole point of what we're doing on Sundays.
And that's the whole point of what the HR 40 was supposed to be.
We can't go to the NAACP, the Urban League, none of these institutes. We can't knock and say, hey, I want the documents pertaining to what happened in the 1800s for us.
Right.
There's no institution for us to go to find out what happened.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So everybody got their own version that they're telling. And that's another thing. I want to say this before y'all build. We're still waiting on somebody to prove us wrong, from the president of the United States to its Congress, to its judges on its judicial branch, and to the leaders of those fake civilized tribes, or anybody on YouTube. Attach the document in the comment section and we'll sit down and shut the fuck up. Show the document where Congress acknowledged the Negro, Black and colored, or Afro-American through law.
Right.
You can't do it. So everybody's been talking to us about what happened and lying to us because the documents. I'll stop right there.
I'll say, shoot, even this in itself kind of goes back to what you said. They have treaties, laws, and executive orders regarding or relating to Indian affairs. What treaties do we have or that they have with the Negro, Black, colored? What laws do they have for the Negro, Black, colored? What executive orders do they have for the Negro, Black, colored, African American? None of them. So they, again, have never recognized our group, yet we are always the ones being constantly killed. It's for a reason. They're not going to write us into their, their system.
And not going to be protected.
Correct.
And that's what we're, when one of our kids get killed or, one of us get killed, we're looking for that protection and, for things to change, laws to be passed, but that is never going to happen. It's going to continue to go on. And I think that we just have to realize that the basic fact that we were not protected and written into any type of laws. Okay, so where did I stop here? I think 3, have prepared to the extent determined by the Secretary of the Interior to be feasible and accurate compilation of official opinions, published and unpublished, of the Solicitor of the Department of the Interior relating to Indian affairs, rendered by the solicitor prior to September 1st, 1967, and to have such compilation printed as a government publication at the government printing office. B, with respect to the document entitled Indian Affairs, Laws, and Treaties as revised and extended in accordance with the paragraph 1 of subsection A and the compilation prepared in accordance with paragraph 3 of subsection of such subsection, the Secretary of the Interior shall take such actions as may be necessary to keep such document and compilation current on an annual basis. So basically, they're updating their information every year to keep them abreast of everything that's going on with them in regards to the documentation.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, there is authorized to be appropriated for carrying out the provisions of this title, such sum as may be necessary. So Title 8, Fair Housing, short title, Section 800, this may be cited as the Fair Housing Act. Okay, so the policy, Section 801, it is the policy of the United States to provide within the constitutional limits for fair housing throughout the United States. Definitions. Definitions, Section 802, as used in this title. A, secretary means Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. B, dwelling means any building, structure, or portion thereof which is occupied as or designed or intended for occupancy as a residence by one or more families, and any vacant land which is offered for sale or lease for the construction or location thereof of any such building, structure, or portion thereof. C, family includes a single individual person.
Stop. This is what fucked us up right here, what you just read. Can you give us the lawful definition of subsection C in the word family one more time?
Family includes a single individual.
That's how the woman became head of household in our group. Bingo. I like that.
Right.
Now, let's part right there, turn the music up, and let's build on this as well. And we'll close out right here and pick this up next week. This is what destroyed us. Our grandparents went from being under intense military occupation, i.e., not being able to go to public restaurants, hotels, motels, etc. Then in 1964, the United States government removed intense military occupation for the world to become citizens, never recognizing the Negro who they were specifically warring against. Then in 1965, the United States government allowed the world to vote, even though it was the Negro that was specifically trying to get access as a citizen of the United States government. Now here in 1968, 1 week after they killed Martin Luther King, you gotta remember that, y'all. 1 week after the federal government assassinated Martin Luther King, they come out with the 1968 Indian Rights Act, and buried in that in Title 8, the definition for family includes a single individual. So how the fuck did we as a family get bombarded with intense military occupation, i.e. the Emmett Tills and all the lynchings and the hangings and running out of towns? How did our women then turn around and run to the same government to get housing the same year that they killed King? Let's build on that. We're not throwing our women under the bus, but we got to look at what happened. How did we go from the whole family being murdered if in the wrong side of town, to now the woman can be considered family because it only needs one person. It doesn't say family, man and woman. Y'all want to build on that?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, reading this, there's really no, I don't know. I don't know how they were able to
So,
why the woman would want that, you know, back then, but I don't know.
kind
Good
of spoke
question.
on it last week, in regards to, I think you said like your father, as soon as, turn 18, you getting drafted, right? We got a war going on around this time, Vietnam War. A lot of our, grandfathers, fathers for some in those wars never came back home, uncles, cousins, that nature. So you got them fighting on a foreign land, pretty much just getting killed over there, leaving what? Just the mother.
The
or
women
just
at
the mother,
home.
women and the children, right? Now, okay, we have this Fair Housing Act for you women, since we know you can't afford to pay for these, this land, these homes that you own. We're going to move you into these dwellings with your family. But again, family could just mean a single individual. Get you all cramped confined within one building. Now you got your ghettos, your different, establishments like that. So again, you kind of even spoke on them with just, killing of Martin Luther King, killing of Malcolm X, arresting of our men. And next, a few years later, the introduction rather of, crack. So all again, just planned out, but I would say it definitely started from, all of that, the constant warring, and then sending the men over to fight on a foreign land and never come home.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper because this is where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we are now, and it's just mighty. And I'm thinking about the Willie Lynch letter. I should have pulled that up before today's bill, but in the Willie Lynch letter, it talks about how you make our women docile to the European. And the way that it describes in that letter is by torturing their man in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does to the woman is it traumatizes the woman, and it puts the fear of God in her to train her son to never stand up against that European, because look at what happened to dad. And then at the same time, she'll train her daughter to be subservient to that European man. So you're teaching your daughter to be subservient. You're teaching your son to never stand up, all because you saw your husband get destroyed by the European. Now, fast forward from that Willie Lynch letter, whether they believe it's real or fake or not, and then look at Title 8 under the 1968 Indian Rights Act. They just killed King a week prior.
Mm-hmm.
The women are traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
You're sending the men fresh out of high school to war.
Mm-hmm.
You with me?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it's still, like you said, that was the beginning, but it's still pretty much the same today in regards to our men imprisoned and getting killed and on TV. So it's pretty much the same. It never stopped, basically. It's just different phases throughout these years.
And at this point, we're at the phase where there is no, quote unquote, fair housing or urban development for our group. All of the, what you would say as far as, ghettos or anything like that are pretty much, ramshack. They done pretty much, ran our folks out of there. What you would call gentrification, just another war, removing people, just another pretty much, what we say, the Indian Removal Act. And that's pretty much what we're dealing with now. Cost of living going up. So now where are those families now? These, again, single individuals, because again, the man is still being, murdered or arrested or, whatever the case may be. So now where are these, single individuals who are now having these families living?
And for those that are listening to this video, if you grew up under housing and you are a woman, now do you understand why they would send federal agents throughout the month randomly to your location to make sure that there was no man there? Because Section C says family is an individual, meaning you. You see, so here again, we gotta give consent to be fucked over. Our women thought that was a good deal. How can I say that? Being born in the 70s, in the 90s, as I'm coming into manhood, they weaponized child support against the men of my generation. Who advocated for that? The women. Let's just be real. And I'm saying we're all in the same game, but I'm just saying, you know, the suspending of the license and all of that. I'm in my early 20s when all that shit kicked off. That was late 90s, early 2000s when the federal government started weaponizing child support. So again, I'm just saying it was our consent as a group of people to allow the government to target the men. So to be able to get out of that system, you're part of the 10% group. You're 1 out of 10 niggas. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. If you had a kid and you've been through a divorce or been through a custody case and, you know what I'm saying, you didn't get ran through the ringer by that system, you 1 out of 10 men. So we got to look at what this system has done to us collectively, starting from our grandparents. That's all I'm saying. We all, you know, play a role in this as a group of people. I'm just saying, look at how they segregated us collectively prior to 64. And then they threw some bait out in 68 for housing, and our women went for it. Now we're at a point where we got a thing called school to prison pipeline, mass incarceration. All that's due to the woman's consent. Why? Because family means a single individual. So the head of the house for us has been the woman. Right. Chief Firewater, you want to build on that?
I mean, yeah, it's the truth. I definitely agree. I definitely agree that it has been weaponized against the man, and it's just a point of us agreeing to allow this to continue to happen. At some point, again, even with the Federal Housing Act, it's a matter of us breaking away from it. You know, we went into it, and I think that maybe the women back then thought that they were going to be protected, but again, it was a slap in the face because that didn't happen. And so here we are all of these years later, and it's worse. It's definitely worse. So that's all I have to say about it.
Chief Biko, and only reason I want to drill down on this because it started here and it's gotten worse. Now, not only is it housing, it's school to prison pipeline. It's the consent hasn't stopped. The war hasn't stopped against the boys.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Correct. And yeah, it's just like you said, just gotten worse, worse and worse through over the time. Folks, you know, younger coming out of college now, making entry level. Where are you going to live? Again, just going back to that, you know, cost of living. You had a, you know, single family, but now these, you know, urban development or this allocated dwellings for people to live in are no longer there. And if they are there, are they for our group of people? I would say no. We've seen who's gotten those resources, whether it be, you know, I believe Afghanistan refugees coming over,
Ukrainian
refugees coming over. We're seeing who's getting the resources and who's moving into these dwellings that were originally for our group, as far as putting them in these particular locations. So again, now you have to ask yourself, okay, where do our people go? Again, like you stated earlier, Chief Alligator, we already spend the most and spend what we don't have. So we have that poor mindset. So knowing that, or do you even have a family to go back to even live with? where are you going to be staying? Are you just going to, you know, say, okay, we just going to all pool together our funds and just live in a, you know, a home together? So again, these are just questions and probably what you're seeing currently. If you're, again, I'll say, hey, under 30, especially if you see, for those coming straight out of, you know, graduation, whether it's high school or college, because you're getting paid entry level. So again, just questions, and we're seeing, you know, how this is all transpiring strictly from what we're seeing here within this act.
Are y'all getting any feedback from the chat as far as what we're talking about right now in reference to the Section 8 Housing Act?
Everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. Pretty much in agreement with what we're saying. Trauma, we were traumatized. Karen Williams said they took our businesses away, so the men had no way to provide for the family.
All of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Integration, shared. Integration just meant consuming your own businesses. You no longer are the owners. You're now just strictly the working class.
right.
Going back to what you was talking about earlier too, Chief Alligator, as well as Chief Quietwater, just the daughters being taught to, okay, yeah, just go to school, you know, get you a good job, be, you know, subordinate to them. And the men, yeah, don't fight when you get pulled over, 10 and 2, you know, make sure you have your driver's license. So again, treating or teaching this docile behavior, and then it just all makes sense of, you know, what we're currently at today. Women don't respect the men because the men aren't respectable. The men aren't men. Plain and simple.
Is there any pushback or any opposing view that y'all are getting from the chat? Because I mean,
No,
it's humbling, you know, to read this information and to really understand what was going on. I just keep thinking about the people who are coined with the term leader, you know, and the only thing I keep thinking about with this 1968 Indian Rights Act is, why have we never heard that this act was passed through Congress and signed by the President of the United States 1 week after the government killed King? Like, had I known that growing up, all of this shit would have clicked and made sense. You would have immediately knew that the government was against our people just by telling that one truth, that this 1968 quote unquote Civil Rights Act was passed 1 week after. Can we pull up that act that I dropped in the chat real quick, just to, because again, what we're showing is the days of people telling us anything and not showing us proof of claim as to what they're talking about. That shit over with. It should have been over with as adults. But we just want to close on this. If you can pull that document up, Chief Biko.
All right.
All right, so we're going to keep it right there. We're going to set aside that it was introduced to bring back the Gold Standard Act. And that was last month on March 30th. So again, water seeps to its own level. What we pay attention to as a group of people is why they call us minorities. We don't follow business. We don't handle our affairs. We just out here. So as we get closer toward the 1971 Gold Standard Act, you can clearly see that they're trying to bring back a Gold Standard Act, which means you got to live within your means as a government and you're going to have to budget. But here's what I want y'all to focus on, people that are watching this video. Point your cursor toward tracker under the bill section. Okay. What we're saying is we're still waiting for any public servant, any officer of the court, any lawyer, any attorney, any esquire, any constitutional scholar, any history scholar, anybody who thinks that they know and understand American history. We're saying, show us the document where this procedure took place. We're going to show you the procedure for stuff to become law under this government. It has to be introduced. Step 2, it has to be passed by the House. Step 3, it has to be passed by the Senate. Step 4, it goes to the president. President signs it, and it becomes law. What we are saying on this channel is that procedure has never happened to write Negro, Black, Colored, or Afro-American into law. That's what we're showing by reading these documents. That procedure has never taken place. So you have a Black caucus that is for the Africans coming to America, which there really is no Africans because those people have nations on that landmass that we know as Africa. So your HR 40 hopes about studying reparations for the Negro, Black, or colored, it's not going to happen. It's time to make that water rise. People are getting in front of us and talking loud and ain't saying shit. We will close this channel down when somebody can present the document where this procedure happened and Congress actually defined what Negro, Black, and colored is and wrote it into some type of act.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all want to say on that? I just wanted to show that so people can understand that are watching this channel. That's the procedure for something to become law under this government. And emancipation didn't go through that process, but the Freedmen's Bureau Act did, the Homestead Act did, the Civil Rights Acts did, and Negro, Black, and colored ain't in none of them. So what we're saying is find a document that went through that procedure that's got those words written in them.
Okay.
Non-existent. Won't be able to find it, but like you said, if somebody can prove otherwise, that would definitely be a great conversation to have, to see proof.
Absolutely. Thus far, we have not seen it, and shit, I'm willing to say we won't see it ever. Again, we've been reading all these documents that have been said they are supposed to pertain to us, but again, when we do our fast find or when we just read through it, we see nothing regarding Negro, colored, or Black, especially not African American. So again, that proclamation or that challenge stands, and until someone is able to provide it, we're gonna stand on that. But shoot, I think that's a good stopping point. Left off on the Fair Housing Act, and this is going to be very vital because, like we all pretty much stated, it's going to tell us the story of what we're dealing with now into present times.
So, So I was going to ask, would an executive order be law?
Executive order, no.
Why?
Congress makes law.
There you go. So we got to understand it as a group of people. When you hear people who look like us say, "Oh, we need Biden to do an executive order," that's not procedure for something to become law under this government. That shit got to go through Congress. It's never happened for our group of people, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who want to close us out? Who want to close us out?
Shoot, I think that's it right there. Again, till next week, we're gonna continue to hammer this point down. Hell, Lyndon B. Johnson say it every time we play his video. Proclamation is not fact. Basically,
Right.
proclamation is not law. So if the president made a proclamation, same shit as the executive order, that is not law. And that's all we saying. We again just show you the process of how to become law. And again, we have never been defined or recognized by this government. So why do majority of our people continue to put faith into this government?